of what you're doing. As a manager, when you begin to work with someone on a one-to-one basis or as a supervisor, you need to be able to think in terms of your conference with that particular individual. Uh, you divide your conference into three phases or three components: the beginning, the middle, and the end. In the beginning of the conference, that's when you're structured and scheduling the conference and the meeting of getting together with that individual and what it is that you're going to be doing. The preparation is the hardest part, where you begin to prepare and involve the availability of your instructions or your agenda or what it is that you're going to be working with that particular individual. And again, I can't help but go back to recognizing whether you're focusing on knowledge, skill, or affect as you begin to meet with that individual. And in some situations, you're focusing on all three at the same time, or you're emphasizing more the cognitive versus the affective behavior or the affective domain of learning. In the middle of your conference, that's when you begin to teach, and that's when the individual begins to learn. And you need to be able to recognize the different kinds of orientations to teaching and learning. And that's where you apply some of the adult learning principles that we talked about earlier in terms of what's going on. At what moment do you say what needs to be said and how you say it and what you know about that individual in terms of their particular style or their preferences and their understandings. And then you end the conference and always end on a positive note and begin to talk about where you need to be later in that training session or in that individual conference. How you might sequence the learning as you begin to apply some of the different applications in terms of helping people learn. Do you need to be reflective? Do you need to be giving them immediacy in terms of immediate feedback? What would you be doing later with that particular individual as you begin to work with them? Now, there's no difference between the individual conference or a group conference or when you're meeting with a group of individuals. Okay, there's always going to be a beginning, there's always going to be a middle, and there's always going to be an end, and an end that leads to a new beginning in terms of where you're going from that process. Okay, the characteristics of a good conference in educational supervision, as discussed by Kadushin and Harkness, is the planning and preparation by both the supervisor and the supervisee. What planning and preparation did you do? What planning and preparation did your staff person do? There's got to be shared, consensual, agreed on objectives between you and the employee. And that's where you do the assessment, and that's where the employee has some ownership in terms of their particular learning. Focus on the work of the employee. Don't focus on them. Focus on their performance in terms of their particular work and what it is that they did. All right? Don't personalize or attack the individual. Priority should be given to critical self-analysis with guidance of the supervisor as you begin to work with that particular individual. Provide the employee or the worker with clear, unambiguous, relevant feedback to improve the performance. Be concrete. Be specific. And you need to be able to be concrete and specific with your staff when you're working with groups of individuals or your managers. A good conference in education and supervision takes place in the context of a facilitative learning atmosphere. The atmosphere must be safe. See how Kadushin and Harkness put together Vela's principles, 12 adult learning principles, as you can see this. Follow desirable principles of learning and teaching, and a good conference also provides for follow-through and connections to the next conference, okay? It leads you to where you need to be later on down the road. Relevancy, direction, goals, motivating adults as learners. Stephen Leib talks about these 6 basic points, 6 factors that serve as sources of motivation for adult learning: social relationships, external expectations, social welfare, personal advancement, escape and stimulation, cognitive interest. We learn because we want to make new friends, we want to meet new associates. There's something there in terms of the connectedness of working with peers, working with different staff, exchanging ideas with other probation officers. I go to a conference because I'm able to network. I'm able to learn what goes on in different organizations. Okay? I learn from other staff members in terms of what they're doing, and I gain some techniques. There's external expectations, which talks about complying with the instructions from someone else and the fulfillment of expectations or recommendations of someone with formal authority. To be able to do well, and the boss knows about it, or to be able to tell your staff that you've talked with them about the positiveness and you've let your superiors know how well your staff are performing. I had a great supervisor who would always motivate me by telling me about how she would always tell other people that she could never do this without my intervention or without my help. It was as if I knew that other people knew what I was doing. And I've had other supervisors that wouldn't even comment. And your staff are seen through your eyes in terms of upper management and upper administration. Okay? And if your staff feel that you are sharing their input to others, that helps, in that learning process. That motivates them. Social welfare, to improve the ability to serve mankind and to prepare for service in the community and to improve ability and to participate. So what motivates people is being able to know that they're doing something for someone. They're helping other people. They're helping the neighborhood. They're helping the community. There's relevancy to what they're doing. And what do we mean by personal advancement? Well, the mere fact that we know that at some point in time there is going to be some advancement as a result of what we learn. I've developed a certain skill. I know that those skills will be used and it will help me obtain a promotion. People want to learn because they get bored. They want to do something different. They want to have a different kind of a routine. And there's always this cognitive interest in terms of what motivates individuals. The real question here is, so what? I know this. Well, if I know my staff and I know what motivates them or how I can get them to do certain things, then I need to be able to make connections between the relevancy and the adult principles and help them understand and getting them from point A to B. And that's the so what in this